6:04, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. We are starting off your morning at 64 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Yikes, that is warm for February. 64, by the way, you heard that forecast from Emma Kate Cowan, is on the way up to 80. Brutal. All right, we got a lot of ground to cover on today's show. Super Bowl week is in full swing down in New Orleans. We'll hit on that a good bit. A lot going on within the city as well, within the city right here. So let's dive into top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Mayor President Sid Edwards is looking to expand his presence to North Baton Rouge by developing a satellite office over at the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. The expansion is taking place in District 2. Anthony Kenny, Metro Councilman from that district, says, if it's something that my office can't directly handle and they need the Mayor's Office's assistance, we have the convenience now to have that satellite office in the midst of our district. Overall, though, when you think about it, MOSEP is up there by the airport. So the difference between downtown and the airport is all the difference. Going to be a great addition for the city parish offices.
Number 4.
Speaking of the city parish, they're still adding up the cost from the snowstorm a couple weeks ago. It's expected to be in the millions. Clay Reeves, director of the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, told our news partners over WBRZ yesterday that tallying up the city parish's costs is going to require going department by department to capture all the expenses related to the storm. By the way, federal aid might be available if those costs exceed the threshold of a little more than $2 million.
Number 3.
The LSU Board of Supervisors filed a writ to the First Circuit Court of Appeal Monday, attempting to reverse the decision made by the 19th JDC judge, to let LSU law professor Ken Levy return to the classroom until a hearing can happen regarding his sudden removal over political comments made during a lecture.
Number 2.
What's the plan for EBR students to make up the days missed for the snowstorm? Well, February 19th, May 20th, and May 21st will all be changed from half days to full days. May 23rd is a half day, the last day of school for students, teachers, and support staff.
Number 1.
An 18-year-old accused of raping an LSU student in her dorm room was arrested Monday. LSU PD said they were called to the dorm in North Hall during the early morning hours of January 18th for a sexual assault complaint. Victim told police she was left by her friends at a Tigerland area bar earlier that night. 18-year-old Ali Jafar offered to take her home. She said she knew Jafar but had never seen him outside the bar. Jafar was arrested, booked for third-degree rape. What's trending there, John?
Well, President Donald Trump on Monday agreed to a 30-day pause on his tariff threats against Mexico and Canada as America's two largest trading partners took steps to appease his concerns about border security and drug trafficking.
What?
Yeah.
You're telling me that this worked again?
Who would have thought?
All right. So, the announcements yesterday about, the announcements over the weekend about tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, and now it's down to just China, and it's looking like China's going to retaliate with a 15% tariff on a number of different items. I don't have the list in front of me right now, but one of those items was coal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. China's going to return serve here. I tell you the part I don't like about the Chinese, the 10% tariff on China.
Yeah.
It includes Temu and Shein.
Oh.
Yeah.
To be honest, of all things, that's one thing I did not put into consideration.
Yeah. I didn't realize it would be that widespread.
Right.
But, man, I tell you what, if you start adding things up over Temu and Shein, the Haldane budget's going to get tight.
Hey, in other news.
Hey, and this isn't like hey, Dad, my wife likes to shop. No. This is household wide. We're all guilty parties.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
As long as it didn't involve TikTok shop.
Hey, a new FAA report has revealed troubling details about the control tower staffing at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport on the night of the tragic plane-helicopter collision. The report suggests that one air traffic controller was responsible for two positions, which is unusual for the high traffic volumes of the time.
Yeah. Boy, that isn't. Well, so understaffing is the preliminary right there.
Yes.
If we had the capability of just waiting for the whole thing to come out, and then we could, judge accordingly rather than speculate. I know we're not capable of that, but whatever. But
Yeah.
if that's the initial report, then there's going to be further questions to answer.
Absolutely.
Why understaffed?
Yeah.
What does it take to get staffed up?
Right.
Yep.
And there lies, of course, where all this conspiracy theories come from, right?
Yeah.
Because hey, ownership of the Washington Commanders says it's likely the name Commanders will stick and they will not be returning to the Redskins.
I saw that. It's like, I don't know if anyone asked. It's Super Bowl week. Every question is going to be asked.
wondering.
Right. Every question is going to be asked of every team.
Yes.
It's Super Bowl week. I mean, Cooper Manning's talking with the Kelseys to get like a family rivalry going. Like it's Super Bowl week. All the craziness happens right about now. So, oh man,
Are we not giving them enough attention? Is that what it is?
what
They're like,
Commanders?
hey guys, we're over here. And
They made the
we're
NFC
still-
Championship this year. I mean,
Still.
I think they got plenty. They got Jaden for crying out loud.
I know, but it's
And
just
everyone loves Jaden.
it's just in case you were wondering, we might stick with the Commanders.
You know who everybody loves more than Jaden?
Who?
It's Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear a
Yeah.
lot from him this week. I was seeing a lot last night. He's covering Super Bowl week for Fox Sports, and he's built for this. He's so made for this.
Awesome.
I don't know if it's as a Saints fan, I want the best for him,
Of course.
but because he was just so good to us while he was here,
Yeah.
it just, but personality on top of personality, and
Yeah.
he's just, I don't know, he's taken to it like a duck to water. All right, it's 6:11 at Talk 107.3 FM. Before we take our first break, when we come back, we will talk a little sports. Roger Goodell was asked about the referees favoring Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. We'll cover that next. Before that, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. Whether you drive a European vehicle or an exotic vehicle, Vex has got you covered when it comes to repairs. And they take pride in a comprehensive level of expertise in European and exotic auto repair, offering specialized services for a wide array of vehicles. From renowned European brands like Porsche, Land Rover, and Audi, to luxury and exotic names such as Ferrari, Lamborghini, or Aston Martin, they've got the skilled technicians, and they're equipped to handle them all. You've got the brain power within the team over there. You've got the latest advanced techniques to go along with it. Give them a call at 225-800-4706, 225-800-4706. I would start at vexeuropean.com. Hit that little drop-down tab. If you see your make a vehicle, hit the little appointment tab, and you're good to go. You'll find them on Benefit Drive in the backside of Industrialplex. It's Vex, Vex with a V, vexeuropean.com. stuff off the printer. I'm a mess this morning. No, I get something out of my bag too. .616 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We've got a busy guest list for you this morning. We're going to check in down in New Orleans with Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics. That's coming up at 6:35. Talk about the city as a whole right now. How much did Jeff see of them get the New Orleans? All the combined efforts. How much got done in preparation for the Super Bowl? I know not everybody's in town yet. It's going to be increasing in volume as the week wears on. We'll chat with Jeff at 6:35. 7:15, Erin Bendily from the Pelican Institute is going to join us. Want to talk with Erin about, right now is kind of the off season because the Pelican Institute is super active during the legislative session, then a little bit less so during election season. But what are they doing right now? What goes into the making of the sausage, as it were, as you get ready for the legislative session? The Pelican Institute's Solutions Summit is coming up on April 1st, and we will be there. And I'm looking forward to it because there's a lot of momentum right now coming off of last year and the bevy of special sessions plus the regular session. Where do we go from here? Erin Bendily joins us at 7:15, 7:35. We've got Caroline Malier, and I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right because I've only read it thus far. She's with the R Street Institute. We're seeing tariffs early on from Donald Trump. What are we looking at when it comes to financial regulatory agenda? What are we looking at from the Trump administration, a second Trump administration, when it comes to populism versus deregulation? What are we looking at when it comes to free market economics? We're going to break all that down with Caroline at 7:35. 8 o'clock hour, State Representative Kim Carver going to join us at 8:15. We're going to continue that discussion about the successes in education, and then we're going to wrap it up down in New Orleans one more time. I should say en route to New Orleans one more time. Matt Moscona, host of AFR, which you hear on our sister station 104.5. He's going to join us at 8:35 just to kind of walk us through all the events going on down in the Big Easy. Like, for example, opening press conferences, which were yesterday. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell was at the podium yesterday to answer some questions. And one of the questions he got was, hey, is the league rigged when it comes to the refs and the Kansas City Chiefs? Here's what Roger Goodell had to say.
Sort of reminds me a little bit of the script, right? That I write a script, and I have the script for the entire season. Listen, I think from a lot of those theories are things that happen in social media, and they get a new life. As you say, it's not your theory, but it's out there. Nobody wants it to be their theory. And so I understand that. I think it reflects a lot of the fans' passion. And I think it also is a reminder for us how important officiating is. And I think the men and women that officiate in the NFL are outstanding. They have the highest possible standards. That's ridiculous theory for anyone who might take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's something we always have to continue to work on. How do we make our officiating better at all times? And if you look at the Chiefs' record, which I think is an amazing thing, people talk about the competitiveness of our league. The Chiefs, with their 15 wins, 15-2 this year, 11 of those 15 games were within one score. And I think that talks about the competitiveness of our game and the importance of how we officiate it, but also the competitiveness of how we play it.
He only said that because that's what the script told him to say. Not really. It's just that every time the waters die down, another call comes in and refs make mistakes. That's all there is to that. But it's 6:20. Here comes the Fox Business Report on Talk 107.3. Oh. What the deuce? Did I lose my promo email? There we go. There are 7 different promos on the promo sheet. Heading back to the Shawbills Tire Traffic Center. Here's what we've got going on to start off your Tuesday morning. We're looking good on I-10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge. On I-10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish, we're looking good there as well. Over on I-12 westbound coming in from Livingston Parish, actually it's a little bit lighter than normal volume coming in from Denham Springs. That's, unless I scroll further back, in which case you will find volume on 12 westbound coming in. It starts back by Jubin, actually it starts all the way back by Walker, not by, nope, sorry, that is Jubin. Starts back by Jubin before getting up to Range, and then it picks up a little bit after that. You will be able to take your foot off the brake a little bit after Range Avenue. Slow back down again as you approach the 10-12 merge. Right now on your surface streets, what do we have going on surface street-wise? I got to hit refresh on my screen here because I opened it before the show started, so anything would be 20 minutes old. And, yep, same thing's on there. A hit and run. It's been moved off the roadway, Airline Highway at East Industrial by Choctaw. But it's out of the way now and shouldn't be a problem if you're on Airline. That's your look at traffic from the Shawbills Tire Traffic Center. 624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. I would do something a little bit different this morning. We normally, if we're grabbing audio from different places, it's in soundbite form. But, man, 2 on Your Side did a story yesterday about Broadmoor Middle It's shut down. It has been shut down for some time. It sits there on the corner of Goodwood and Sharp, and it's an absolute eyesore. So we're going to, before you even hit it, I just want to set this up with a question to be asking yourself as a Baton Rougean. What would you like to see done with properties like this? Here's the full story from 2 on your side.
Broadmoor Middle School closed in 2019. There was talk of reopening it up, but that fizzled. It's been sitting there boarded up, frequented by squatters. Tired of the unwanted activity, the Homeowners Association contacted 2 on your side, hoping to get some answers or at least some direction for the problem property. A cry for help. Graffiti colors the windows and walls at the closed Broadmoor Middle School.
This thing has become, in my opinion, a public danger to the community now.
People living in Sherwood Forest are watching closely. Sherwood Forest Citizens Association is fielding calls, concerns over what's happening at the shuttered school.
I think people in the neighborhood are just fed up.
The sign warns trespassers.
Vandals, drug activity. Well, you can see what's going on here.
Will Galloway, who is on the neighborhood's board, says people don't pay much attention to the threat. Keep out. Is it secure? Do you think it is?
I don't think it is. I think anyone can walk around this building right now and find an entrance into these buildings.
The building is not secure. We found a way around, walking along broken glass next to open windows.
I think you could get all the plywood in Baton Rouge and it wouldn't fix the problem here.
The front of the school stays active. Right now, it looks like East Baton Rouge Parish Schools use this as a parking area for school buses. During the day, the buses come and go. Galloway, who voted here after the closure, says that's about all it's used for. He says the can has been kicked down the road for too long.
What's going to happen? What are the plans for this school?
Superintendent Lamont Cole says there's 2 options: demolish the building or fix it up.
We will have a firm decision within the next 20 days relative to what we're going to do with that site.
Should this be torn down?
That's my opinion. The money it would cost to refurbish this and repurpose this building, it'd be cheaper to just tear it down and start over again.
He's afraid if nothing's done, it'll create an even bigger issue.
People will start moving. The neighborhood will start deteriorating.
Yeah. Cole says he recognizes the concerns about the vandalism and plans to have the district's facilities team go out there to make sure the property is secure. We'll let you know what the district plans to do as soon as we find out. 2 on your side, Brittany Weiss, WBRZ News 2.
Now, on top of the boards in the windows and on top of the buses in the parking lot, you'll find a BRPD officer in that parking lot darn near all the time. That's part of my regular commute. I see that I pass that spot 3-4 times a day, and there's almost always a BRPD officer in the lot right there. But that being said, though, it is when if you close your eyes and picture a blighted property, that's the image you're going to see. It is the exact example of, if you looked up blighted property in the dictionary, you would see that picture. And it is every bit as bad as that report made it out to sound like. The boarded up windows, the busted out windows, the glass all over the place, the graffiti all over the place. Oddly enough, though, I'm a commissioner with the Sherwood Forest Crime Prevention District. Not a whole lot of actual crime reported from there. Well, breaking and entering and vandalism probably just doesn't show up, probably doesn't get called until after the fact. But the report is accurate. It is an absolute eyesore, and it is a potential magnet for worse things to come if you live in that neighborhood. So I want to ask this question, not just about this property, but about so many more. Is it time for government to start selling out, selling back? We've seen it with Breck. Breck is actively trying to sell a number of properties that they own. I mean, it's the responsible thing to do. You don't want to have the liability of it. You don't want to have the upkeep of it. And if you've got a piece of property that is commercially viable, why not get rid of it? Now, the school system's going to be a little bit different than Breck, to be sure, because the school system has to keep in mind, you might want to hang on to the property itself simply because you might need it one day. You know, schools can come and go. You get torn down, you get rebuilt. So that's a legit thing for sure. But man, that particular piece of property being where it is, why not put it up on the market? I mean, it's big enough to do something with. It's big enough to sell for. It's not like you're going to put up 1 or 2 homes on it. There's a good football field on the backside of it as well. So it's not just the parking lot in the school and a little schoolyard. They got some square footage. Chime in. We're up on Facebook Live every day, courtesy of the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. Would love to hear your thoughts on this and point out a couple of other spots around town. Where else would you like to see the city parish in whatever form or fashion say, you know what, don't really need this land. We're going to go ahead and sell it off. Let me know over on Facebook Live. Right now, here's news. They're late. Sorry, everybody. Byron says is it zoned for commercial use? And that can be changed to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Because if you zoned it out for residential instead, if you change the zoning of it, I could see an addition on the Sherwood Forest, another, because it would fit perfectly that way. Time to get a look at your forecast. Here's WBRZ meteorologist Emma Cade Cowan. Morning, Renee. Good morning, Christy. Welcome in, sweetheart. Keep it going. Talk 107.3 and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help cover your car payments. It's a $5,000 grand prize with a bonus chance to win free car washes from Benny's Car Wash for 6 months. We're also letting you earn extra entries by subscribing to our Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge YouTube channel. To sign up, visit talk1073.com. It is 6:38 at Talk 107.3 FM. Every Tuesday we get the chance to check in down in the Big Easy with a good friend, Jeff Crouere, and there's a lot going on this week. Jeff, how are you, man?
Hey, good morning, Brian.
Glad to have you on this week. Obviously, it's a very, very busy week. Are you already seeing the impacts of those coming in for the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It has been a big increase of people each and every day, over the last week. And it's picking up every day. And all the events surrounding it, the way that it's all backed out, the introductory press conferences yesterday and whatnot. Louisiana Now coming up today. Are anybody, by any chance, are you going out to that Louisiana Now pavilion? Maybe. I'm sort of, heading a few things up that we're going to be doing. It's just so many different activities, and it's just sort of a crazy environment. Got good college friend of mine who lives in Kansas City, who is coming down and going to be spending time with him and his wife, and so excited for the whole experience.
It's a I would say it's a once in a lifetime experience, but New Orleans was built for the Super Bowl, so it gets to host it more than anywhere else. Is there any way to compare where the Super Bowl is now to where it was last time?
It's just bigger, more attention, more people involved. It was incredible just being around the CBD yesterday to see all of the last minute arrangements that were being made to, try to get, even Carondelet, trying to get Carondelet Street finished. They were out there, painting the stripes, trying to finish all the road work. No time like the last minute, I guess. But, just trying to get all the preparations done and, blocking off all these streets, blocking off the Poydras exit. It's, everything's just a lot more concerned with security now, obviously, after New Year's. So you do sense, definitely more police around, definitely more state police, and, I'm sure that's going to ramp up each and every day.
You mentioned Carondelet. Your station's off Carondelet, right?
Yeah, it is, and we can't park.
Yeah.
Can't park in front of the station, so that is been that way for a while as they've been working on Carondelet. So it's just, typical New Orleans where they wait till the last minute to, finish road work. So, just what they do. But
that, and
anyway,
they also bit off more than they could chew. There were more projects on there that you could possibly finish.
Right. And, a lot of them are still going to be going on, Super Bowl Sunday. And, I think the idea is to get it ready, best presentable fashion for the people that are going to be here, and the weather, as we heard, the forecast is going to be good, and that's great because I know there are a lot of people excited to come down here to nice weather. We're not going to have a blizzard. That's good, and be 80-degree temperatures. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be very walking friendly, to be sure, throughout the weekend. We get Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics, joining us as he does every Tuesday. All right, I know not everything's finished, but give them a grade. All the prep works that got done, go ahead and give them a grade as to everything that was taken on and actually achieved.
I did B+. I mean, I think it's been, a big undertaking. I think this has been the focus, and I think that's maybe why, you had the problems you did for the Sugar Bowl and for New Year's Eve. There was so much focus on the Super Bowl, and so much focus on trying to get ready for this, that, of course, not enough was done to prepare for that event and to protect the people for that event. But, yeah, I think it's certainly been a Herculean effort. They've been preparing for this a long time. You've got people like Jay Cicero, from the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation, who's just a real pro at these types of events. They've been doing it for so long. I mean, New Orleans is a city that specializes in these types of activities. I mean, I remember back in the day for the Olympic trials, the track and field Olympic trials. I mean, that was a massive undertaking, and that was sort of the beginning of when they were targeting big sporting events for New Orleans, the Sports Foundation, and they've had a lot of success. So anyway, I think New Orleans is the perfect city for the Super Bowl because things are walkable and everything is so convenient. And, you've got the CBD and the French Quarter and the Dome right there and the restaurants and the, all the attractions. So I would assume if you're coming here from all over the country, you got to say, wow, this really is a gem for an event like this because everything is so close.
Yeah, absolutely. One more on the Super Bowl before we move on, because I want to pick your brain a little bit about tariffs. One more on the Super Bowl before we move on, and that is when you're seeing the entire week's worth of events. I mean, you said it yourself, you can't park where you work. When you see the size and scope of what the Super Bowl brings as compared to the Sugar Bowl, when in hindsight, everybody said at the time, why weren't we prepared for this when it came to the terror attack? Why weren't we prepared for the Sugar Bowl the way we are preparing for the Super Bowl? The size and scope of the event is worlds apart. And seeing the difference in prep, now that it's here, you see, oh, this is why we were prepping for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's just the biggest event in the world, and it is, of course, just an incredible attraction for the city to be able to present itself worldwide. And yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping and praying we don't have a problem. I'm hoping and praying the lights stay on. I'm hoping and praying all the different things that maybe have happened in the past don't this time. And, I just think back as a kid, when I was growing up right next to Tulane Stadium, they had Super Bowls there. And it's just been continuing a trend for the entire 59 years of the Super Bowl. So this has been, I think we're tied for Miami for the most Super Bowls.
And when you look at it, Jeff, there should really only be like 5 or 6 cities that are ever in the mix for Super Bowl. I know the NFL likes to have the carrot on the stick of getting a new stadium out there to get the Super Bowl in, but there are certain cities that just do it better. Miami does it well, but they're way too spread out. Las Vegas does it well, but they're way too expensive. And then New Orleans is the right mix of all of it. So and granted, we're biased, but still. And
that's why initially so many of them came to New Orleans because they loved it.
Yeah.
And they realized that. And then, of course, as you say, other cities got in the mix. And then, of course, they started giving it to all kind of places. But, we're still in there. We're still getting a Super Bowl. I think it's like now averaging like once every 11 years. Yep. But, that's a competition.
We got Jeff Crouere with us. I got to pivot real quick. I got to pick your brain about tariffs because it seems so far that here's the rotation. Trump announces tariffs. Social media melts down. Other countries decide to give the president a call. Things seem to work out. That's kind of where we're at right now for everybody but China. Is that about your take?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it is incredible. I mean, look at it. Colombia, of course,
Yep.
they were talking tough.
Yeah.
He threatens tariffs. They back down. They send the presidential plane. Mexico talking tough. They back down. Canada talking tough. They back down. I mean, it really is amazing. It has been the most amazing 2 weeks of any president in history. And each and every day executive orders, each and every day seems to have things going his way. And the Democrats are just flummoxed. I mean, they are just so confused and disarray. I mean, I don't know if you saw the meeting they had over the weekend. It's really sort of laughable what they're doing. David Hogue, I guess, that guy. I mean, my goodness, crazed leftist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
But so far, so good, Brian.
Yeah, and the European Union is probably going to be next. And it just, the thing to remember is he's not going to win them all. Nobody ever bats 1,000. But
Right.
if you win more than you lose, you can advance America a little bit further.
And the thing that really strikes me is how much he's learned from the first term.
Yes.
And it's just night and day from how he started that one versus how he's starting this one. And, you know, the team he has around him seems to be so much more capable. And then the Elon Musk factor, that is just huge. And what he is able to do sort of as an independent contractor practically is incredible.
Yeah, with the thing is, though, I don't know that they've overstepped bounds yet. It seems so monstrous. It seems so ginormous, okay? Monstrous makes it sound evil. It seems so larger than life. But has Elon even looked at anything that wouldn't be under the purview of the executive branch to begin with?
I don't think so. I mean, USAID is, of course, something that's causing a lot of backlash. But then you look into what they've been doing. So, I mean, I think he's certainly got the support of the president in everything he's been doing so far. And now I hear the next target is going to be the Department of Education. So that's going to be a battle royale.
Yes. And let's hope they lay off of that target until the Secretary of Education gets sworn in, until they actually have it hammered out that Linda McMahon's going to get that job. Because if you do one before the other, I think everything's going to end up in a stalemate.
And that's the thing. A lot of this is being done without cabinet members.
Yep.
I mean, look at what happened to the transportation secretary. One day after he gets confirmed, he has disasters all over the place he's got to deal with.
Yep. Well, you got a show to get to. We always appreciate the time. Enjoy as many festivities as you can get to. I'm hoping to head down there for the big announcement at 11 today from Louisiana Now, so maybe I'll see you.
All right, my friend.
All right.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll talk to you next week. It was Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics. Yeah, their station is like right in the heart of the CBD, like smack dab in between. You know, they're on Carondelet, so they're in between Poydras and Canal, right there in the thick of it. That guy's commute has got to be an absolute nightmare this week. Don't forget, Talk 107.3 can now be heard in crystal clear high definition. Simply tune to 100.7. Select HD2. It's time for your money now. It's 6:50 at Talk 107.3. Every day with that. That's not your fault. That's not your fault. That is not your fault. That is an open source. What you might want to do instead is put it in queue first.
Yep. I'm going to have to start queuing it.
The closed caption keeps calling Carondelet coronavirus. Good Lord. Patrick Reynolds says it's like when they cleaned up San Francisco when the Chinese leader came. They didn't clean up New Orleans when they want to. They just don't want to for regular folks. It's a good point. It's a good point. I mean, we had LaToya Cantrell has been in there her entire, like, she's termed out. She's not going to run again. She's had a lot of time to get this done. When John Bell Edwards was governor, he certainly wasn't giving New Orleans a look at all. From the day that Jeff Landry was sworn in, he made a promise that New Orleans was going to get some tough love with Troop NOLA on the crime front. And then you add in all these DOTD projects and all this stuff because you have this call to action. I don't know if I want to be negative about it, though. You know? It's like, yeah, you could have done this years ago. But on the flip side, I'm like, I'm just grateful it's getting done. Does that... God, what a namby-pamby take by me. Oh, God. Anyway, WGSO, located at the corner of Union and Coronavirus. Byron says, my daughter watches movies with subtitles. Drives me crazy. My brain can't read and watch at the same time.
Oh, man.
My daughter does that as well.
Who doesn't?
I don't.
Really?
Seriously.
I have to have subtitles.
Why?
It's just better for me. I mean, seriously.
No.
And now the whole house is stuck on like subtitles.
No, it drives me batty,
Really?
dude. Oh, I can't. I'm here to watch it and listen.
Yeah.
If I want to read, I'll grab a book.
Oh, man. Yeah. Watch a movie theater soon. Start like putting subtitles.
I mean, is that a generational thing?
It must be. Honestly, and
I
truly.
thought subtitles were there if you were like going deaf and couldn't hear.
Right. And now
Like-
it's just literally just to see the words, like just to see so you're reading and watching at the same. Yeah. I know it's insane.
Frustrating.
It's insane, but yeah.
You have there's a Susan Bourgeois cut in today's folder.
Oh, there. Okay.
Not the LRN cuts. It's like a minute and a half long.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Honestly, it must be a generational thing.
Hey, Sonny says, fun fact about me, I was Jeff's first Politics with a Punch in Baton Rouge way back in the day.
Wow.
Love that. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Going to get an ice cold Coca-Cola. Hopefully they fix the machine and it's actually cold.
Look in the ice chest next to the machine.
Over here.
I don't know if they're still ice cold, but that ice chest has been down there since the snowstorm.
This one?
Yeah, don't pay for a coat. Yeah.
Scott, you watching TVs? Are you watching shows and movies with subtitles on?
When you're watching TV, subtitles or no?
See, yeah, it must be a generational.
I think it's
thing.
a generational thing.
It must be.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's got to be.
Look, my wife can't hear very well anymore, and her mom can't hear, and her grandmother certainly couldn't hear. So, like on Apple, when you back something up, like separate,
See, that seems unfair. You still have to hear them.
when you back it up,
Yeah.
the first 8 seconds of whatever you backed up, it shows the subtitle and it goes away.
Oh,
I think it's perfect because she's like, "What did he say?" I'm like,
that's pretty cool.
All right.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, weird. Never really think about that stuff. You know what I mean? You're just out here living your life, and then you realize, like, oh, that's kind of odd.
Yeah. I feel like my computer's sleep timer gets shorter every day. And I don't know how to change it. Power sleep and battery settings. Best power efficiency?
What's that? I'm sorry.
I'm thinking out loud.
Oh, okay.
Crap. 6:55. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're holding at 64 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Oh, man. Thanks again to Jeff Crouere from Ringside Politics for hopping on board. We're checking back in New Orleans in the 8 o'clock hour. Matt Moscona from AFR, after further review on our sister station 104.5 ESPN, going to join us at 8:35. Let's get a little preview, or a little review, I should say, of what's already transpired down in the Big Easy as it is Super Bowl week. There's 1,000,001 festivities going on. There's more things to do than you can do. It's like trying to catch every show at Jazz Fest. So we'll check in with Matt Moscona. I want to get a front row look at Radio Row, which is where our sister station is posted up, is on Radio Row. I believe they're right next door to to ESPN, like the big ESPN, one of the big ESPN stages. So we'll check in with Matt at 8:35. Another of the events that's going on is Louisiana Now. Our state's economic development department is taking full advantage of this look under the magnifying glass at Louisiana, saying, hey, we got some pretty cool stuff going on. Had Economic Development Secretary Susan Bourgeois on with us last week. Here's how she described Louisiana Now.
So it's going to look like a combination of a museum, an exhibit, an immersive experience, a theater, a massive, I hate to call it a tent because once we're done with it, nothing about it will look like a tent. But you'll sort of enter through the front where it is an homage, if you will, to the history of Louisiana's economy and the strength of our legacy industries. But more importantly, you'll then pass through a section of a physical space that then brightens and lightens, and it really focuses on a new day in Louisiana, all sort of anchored around sunrises and brightness. But we're really going to highlight three things. There's a Louisiana wow wall, and it's just statistics and stories and evidence, if you will, of the innovation and the success that's coming out of Louisiana. One is called the Louisiana Go Wall, and it shows Louisiana's connectivity to the world, right? It highlights our the mouth of the Mississippi River, our deep water ports. It highlights our access to the Gulf of Mexico, although I think I'm supposed to call that the Gulf of America now. So that it highlights our railways and our infrastructure, and so that's the Louisiana Go section. And then there's the Louisiana Now section, which is really about the transformational changes that have happened just in the last 12 months to show the position that we're in right now to compete on a global stage.
That was Economic Development Secretary Susan Bourgeois, kind of spelling out what the big tent is going to look like. It's nestled in the parking lot in between the Riverside Hilton and the Montreal Convention Center. I'm curious to see how many big names in business are putting eyes on this thing. Not just from out of state, but some of the businesses in state that might be looking to grow, expand, move into another realm, as it were. So one of the many things going on this week. Speaking of being connected to the world, let me tell you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. FlyBTR.com is the website, FlyBTR.com. If you hop on FlyBTR.com, you'll get all the information about everything going on at the airport. For example, your arrivals and departures list is right there on the website. I mean, it's super duper convenient if you want to check where your flight is at. I can tell you right now that so far this morning, flights to Dallas, Houston, and Atlanta have already taken off. That direct flight to Washington, D.C., scheduled for 7:11 a.m. It's on time for its scheduled departure at 7:11 a.m. It'll be followed by a flight to Charlotte, then back to Houston, Atlanta, all over the map, as it were. FlyBTR.com is your hub if you're flying out of Baton Rouge. And, oh, by the way, when you look at it, you can't match the level of convenience and service that you get from Baton Rouge versus driving down to other airports. It's 7 o'clock. Here's news. Yeah, these guys went away. Don't need that anymore. Don't need that anymore. Can't find my notes. I can't find my notebook. I had a meeting with Landmark Bank about 3 weeks ago. I took thorough notes, and now I can't find the damn notebook. What? Yeah, the first floor conference room. Hey, Rich.
Hey, dude. John, what's up, dude? Hey.
7:06, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. We're starting your second hour off, just like we did the first hour, at 64 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Got a busy hour this hour. I want to talk with the Pelican Institute. What's their off-season look like, y'all? There is no off-season. What's their off-season look like? How do they formulate where they're going to head, what they're going to put forth for the legislative session, recommendations they'll make, and the like? Their solution summit's going to be coming up on April 1st. We will be there. And want to know what to expect. Last year, they tackled a lot of things. Regulation being a big topic for the last session. Licensures. Oh, huge. We no longer have to have a license to sort flowers in the state of Louisiana. I know that's a minuscule part of the whole equation, but it was a big one in terms of, it was a minuscule part of the whole equation, but it was a big step to see that, oh, look at this. Maybe you don't have to have a license to do everything under the sun. So we'll talk with Erin Bendily in our next segment, VP over there at the Pelican Institute, about what they've got cooking, what they've got working on. Also this hour, want to talk with the R Street Institute. Man, we're just institute after institute. We're being institutionalized this morning. Here's the headline from the R Street Institute. Populism or deregulation? What to expect from Trump's financial regulatory agenda? Yeah, tariffs are going to get in the mix on this, but this is a broader spectrum sort of thing. So we'll dive in with Caroline Malier. I hope I'm saying that last name right, because I've only seen it read thus far. Right now, though, we start off the hour with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
How about a satellite city hall, or at least a satellite mayor's office? Mayor President Sid Edwards is expanding his presence to North Baton Rouge by developing a satellite office over at MOSEP, the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. So this is basically in the backside of the airport is where MOSEP is at. It's District 2, if you're looking at Metro Council districts. Anthony Kenny, who is the Metro Councilman from that district, says, if it's something my office can't handle directly, then they do need a mayor's office. Then they need the mayor's office's assistance. We'll have the convenience now to have that satellite office in the midst of our district. Just looking at the map, this is a good thing. It's a good thing. This is a branch out to say, look, we're all over the city, not just in downtown.
Number 4.
The city parish is still adding up the costs from the snowstorm 2 weeks ago, and it's expected to be in the millions of dollars. Clay Reeves, director of MOSEP, told our news partners over at WBRZ yesterday that they're tallying up the city's costs here is going to involve going department by department. Federal aid might be available if those costs exceed a threshold of a little more than $2 million.
Number 3.
The LSU Board of Supervisors filed a writ to the First Circuit Court of Appeal Monday, attempting to reverse a decision made by a 19th JDC judge to let LSU law professor Ken Levy return to the classroom until a hearing can happen regarding his sudden removal over political comments that were made during a lecture.
Number 2.
What's the plan for EBR students to make up the days missed by the snowstorm? Well, the plan is February 19th, May 20th, and May 21st. Those were all scheduled as half days. Well, now they're going to be made full days. May 23rd is a half day, but that's the last day of school, so that's staying half right now.
Number 1.
An 18-year-old accused of raping an LSU student in her dorm room was arrested Monday. LSU PD said they were called to the dorm room in North Hall during the early morning hours of January 18th for a sexual assault complaint. The victim told police she was left by her friends at a Tigerland area bar earlier that night. 18-year-old Ali Jafar offered to take her home. She said she knew Jafar but had never seen him outside of the bar. Jafar was arrested, booked for third-degree rape. What's trending, John?
Well, President Donald Trump on Monday agreed to a 30-day pause on his tariff threats against Mexico and Canada as America's two largest trading partners took steps to appease his concerns about border security and drug trafficking.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Watch it play out.
Worked.
Yep. I mean, look, we still got to deal with China.
Of course.
And they've instituted they've promised a retaliatory tariff, which is going to affect a lot of goods and items.
And you mentioned last hour, and some things I didn't even put into consideration, right?
Mm-hmm.
The two businesses.
Temu
right?
and Shein.
Yes.
Temu and Shein. We like cheap crap. We really do. I love cheap stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
If
And
it breaks, if something happens, it's replaceable.
China offers it.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey.
So, but now it's going to offer it at 15% more? Or no, I'm sorry. That it's the tariff. So it's going to be offered to us at 10% more because it's coming from China. Sorry, I got that equation backwards for a hot second.
Hey, in other news, a new FAA report has revealed troubling details about the control tower staffing at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport on the night of a tragic plane-helicopter collision. The report suggests that only one air traffic controller was responsible for 2 positions, which is unusual for the high traffic volumes of the time.
Family members of one of the pilots is speaking out right now, or was speaking out. We were talking with ABC News last night, or at least I saw a ton of audio on the news call.
Right.
We get lost from time to time when we want to jump to conclusions on blame, when everybody wants to point the finger. We have lost touch with humanity in this society to realize what's more important, scoring political points by pointing blame at the other side immediately, or allowing those who just died to mourn, up to and including the pilots of the plane and the pilots of the helicopter.
Right.
Like, we don't know. We could speculate all day long. We can be catty and bitchy back and forth. But, man, I don't find where that serves us. And now that we're seeing pieces of the FAA report start to come together, we'll actually learn something.
Yeah. Who knew? Hey, in other news, ownership of the Washington Commanders says it's likely the name Commanders will stick, and they will not be returning to the Redskins.
I don't know why I have this weird streak to say shut up, no one asked. Not to you, but like, did anybody bring that up this week?
Right.
Like, of all the things going on in Super Bowl week, and I know that we've had introductory press conferences and whatnot, but I can't imagine a world where on day one of Super Bowl week, somebody said, hey, y'all still going to be the Commanders?
No, they're saying, hey, we're still going to be the Commanders if anyone was wondering.
Like, guys, I know we lost the NFC Championship game, but don't forget about us, okay?
Right.
It's 7:14 to Talk 107.3 FM. We're running long. Let's check in with the Pelican Institute. Erin Bendily joins us next. Hey, I don't know if she has our number. (7:16) Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Happy to welcome a new sponsor onto the show. That would be the folks over at Landmark Bank. You can check them out online at landmarkbankla.com. Landmark Bank, been around for over 100 years, well over 100 years, actually. Founded originally, I want to say, in 1897. And while they've grown over the years, they've established themselves over the years. What they've really done is establish themselves in their niche. If you're in the heart of Baton Rouge, you're not going to find them city center. You're not going to find them downtown Baton Rouge. But if you're up in Zachary, if you are, there's a brand new location in Bruley, you'll find them there. And this is intentional, by the way. They're in Clinton as well. They're in Greensburg. They're in Zachary, and Denham Springs. And now, like I said, Bruley is the latest location. This is intentional, by the way, because they want to service the communities that they're in. They want to have that personal touch on a community. And they're, like I said, very, very intentional about that. You're going to get that one-on-one service. You're going to get all the tech that you need, for sure. But you're going to get that handshake. You are going to get that person that you know. In this world where everything gets a little bit separated from personal relationships, they step in and are all about personal relationships. Check them out online at landmarkbankla.com. All right, what does the Pelican Institute do during the off season? As you're prepping for the upcoming legislative session, what's it look like from their perspective? How do they know what avenues they're going to travel? How do they know what issues they're going to tackle? Joining us now is Erin Bendily from the Pelican Institute. Erin, how are you? Good morning. Do we not have Erin?
Good morning. It would help if I wasn't on mute. Good morning.
Good morning. Glad to have you on this morning. And I hope I'm not jumping the gun with the topic, because we are still a little ways out from the session. But this is where the sausage gets made. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. What's the Pelican Institute doing right about now?
Well, you mentioned the off season. It's funny, we haven't had much of an off season this past year. The legislature has been actually very busy over the past year and a half, with several special sessions last year.
Yep.
Most recently, we had a very productive fiscal session where the legislature passed a number of measures regarding taxes and the state budget this past fall. So the big question is, where do we go from here? Certainly we're not done, and a lot of progress was made last year, but we still have a long way to go to make our state competitive and the place where, we can bring back people who have left our state. We've had this problem of out-migration. We need to keep doing everything that we can to bring people back and to make this the land of opportunity, the economic powerhouse that it should be. And we think that we can do that through better public policy, common sense solutions, evidence-based things that work to really lift our people up and lift our state up. So we're looking at all of these things in a number of different areas that we can continue making progress, because it's really going to take a long-term effort. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Right. So we can't let up now.
Erin Bendily is the Senior Vice President over at the Pelican Institute. We're talking about what they're up to before the session is even close to getting started. Erin, are y'all a little hamstrung this year? Because a lot of what's going to happen in the session is dependent upon what's going to happen on the polls in late March, as there's a constitutional amendment that's up there that can completely change the way we look at spending and cutting spending.
Well, that's certainly something that we're going to be paying close attention to. We weighed in pretty heavily in that last tax session. We've said it for several years. We believe that we can do better when it comes to spending taxpayer money on things that really move our state forward. I mentioned out-migration. We've had that year after year for several years, but at the same time, our state spending, our state budget has gone up and up. So that's not sustainable. We have to get a rein on spending and make sure that we're making better use of taxpayer dollars on critical needs like infrastructure, things that are programs that are producing good results. And at the same time, we have to look at the revenue side. One of the things that has made us less competitive than other states is because we have a lot of punishing taxes, both on people, on businesses. And so we're looking forward to finally being able to talk to voters in the next couple of weeks and explain why some of these changes that they will see on their ballot, while these are important things to move our state forward, This, notion of fiscal responsibility is certainly not a new one. It's one that we've got to get really serious about because these things have real implications for families and for the businesses and the jobs that we want to attract and keep in our state.
All right, so as we talk about crafting policy and legislation that can affect the quality of life, sometimes things get lost in translation. Sometimes you see things pass in the legislative session that you don't necessarily see the one-to-one, like because of this bill, this happened in real life. I feel like right now, in fact, last week, we were given a very good example of where we could see good legislation transfer into real life on the education front with our nation's report card, because we've had a concerted effort to improve, first and foremost, reading scores in the state of Louisiana, and now it's translating towards results right here. Are y'all able to take a win like education that we're seeing, a win in progress, by the way, but a win on the educational front and say, this is how we can do A, B, and C in the Capitol and make X, Y, and Z happen in real life?
Absolutely. And really, if we can't, you've got to question why we're doing things to begin with. This is why we do the work that we do. These things have real implications for real people, and in this case, children across our state who are going to be the next generation of workers and professionals and, those that are going to ensure our economic prosperity going forward. You mentioned a number of policies that the legislature has enacted over the last few governors and several legislatures, things like education choice and freedom, things like accountability, things like investing in reading that's backed in the science of how kids learn to read, things like tutoring. All of these initiatives really are based on things that have worked in other places. A lot of times when we think about education and kids learning to read early on in elementary school, people have looked to the work that Mississippi has done just next door. We are implementing some of those same strategies. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to change the laws. Sometimes you have to appropriate dollars or redirect dollars to what we're using now that's not really working to something that we know could work. And so after, I would say, a couple of decades of seeing others around us make progress, we have started shifting to say, why don't we do things that are proven? And why don't we at the same time make sure that we give families more of an ability to find a school that fits their kids' unique needs? By doing those things, we're starting to see results right now, and it's incredibly exciting.
So how do we, and by the way, we're talking with Senior Vice President over to the Pelican Institute for Public Policy, Erin Bendily is on with us. Okay, so how do we make the education results translate on an insurance front? Talking about how do we start crafting legislation there? Because number one, we know it doesn't happen overnight. Number two, we know it takes more than one session to get it done. What we saw from Dr. Brumley, and quite honestly from y'all as well, with the backing of a lot of policy that made its way through, what we saw there was Dr. Brumley's first year on the job, he was dealing with COVID and hurricanes and COVID and hurricanes. And once he was able to get his feet underneath him to not be in disaster mode, that's when we really started to see, some of the fruits of the labor. Tim Temple, as insurance commissioner, he's had more than a year now, a little more than that, to get his feet underneath him and get his voice to get louder and louder. How do we turn that into real life legislation that turns into real life results on an insurance front?
Well, I mentioned us paying attention to what works in other states in education. You can take that same strategy and apply that to insurance as well. Just yesterday, an organization very similar to ours in Florida, which is a lot like us in many ways when you think about where they are geographically, thinking about property insurance and hurricanes and wind and water, we experience a lot of the same challenges. They put out a paper yesterday that I haven't had a chance to dig into, but I'm looking forward to doing that later today, about some reforms that they have made over the past several years that have led to some relief in these areas where we are experiencing a lot of pain points right now in insurance premium and the availability of people writing insurance in our state. So, again, we're going to look to what has worked in other states. We're going to look as the type of organization that we are at free market solutions that certainly, help individual people in real situations in their lives and their businesses and their livelihoods. But we're also going to look at what's going to ultimately make it possible to own and keep a business in our state because that's also a reason why we see some businesses leave, is the cost of insurance is so high. So again, we have to make sure that we are open and, willing to be as bold and creative as possible to really see the results and to provide the relief that our people and our businesses need.
We got just a couple minutes left with Erin Bendily from the Pelican Institute. What else is going to be hot this session? What else has y'all's attention right now?
Well, we're certainly looking forward to seeing what tax-related or fiscal-related proposals might be on the table for this upcoming session. Remember, it is a fiscal session, so taxes will be the focus. Lawmakers will be able to introduce no more than 5 bills that are not related to taxes. So that's going to compress the term of the session and really focus it on fiscal issues. But at the same time, we're also hearing a lot of interest, certainly about insurance, as you said, but also regulatory reform. We continue to be a state that just has a number of regulations and restrictions on people trying to earn a living, people trying to grow their businesses. We've got to start peeling some of that back. The bureaucracy and the red tape, the fees, the regulations that are really not needed, that are doing more harm than good. We were very excited last year to partner with the governor's office and the legislature on something called universal licensing recognition to allow people coming into our state to be able to continue the profession and licensing that they had started in another state without having to start over from scratch. We're looking to do more things like that because ultimately that's going to benefit people. It's going to benefit our state. So I think regulatory reform is another area to pay attention to where we have a lot of work to do.
Did you make it up to Washington Mardi Gras this year?
I did. It was a lot of fun.
How did I not even see you? I saw Sarah up there. You mentioned regulatory. I saw Sarah up there. I saw Daniel up there. I got to meet Rachel. Where were you at?
I was there. I don't know. Apparently, we were not in the same circles, but I was kind of bummed that I missed all the snow.
Well, yeah, it was great for about half an hour, and then it's like, okay, let's get these roads open again. But I mentioned Washington Mardi Gras because a lot gets done up there in setting the agenda for the legislative session. I feel like that was kind of curtailed a little bit this year between the snow and the late arrivals, and I just the new Trump administration, the level of attention being paid on that front kind of sucked a lot of the oxygen out of the room that would be otherwise talked about for new bills to come this way. What was your takeaway from Washington Mardi Gras this year?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, there was a lot going on. People who were there who were already tired by the time the Washington Mardi Gras festivities began because, they had been there for several days for the inaugural event. And then people, getting there frustrated, having dealt with a number of flight cancellations. Some people got there late. Events were canceled. But it's always a great opportunity to bump into people and just ask, hey, what's on your mind? What are you thinking for the upcoming session? What are your priorities? What are some areas where maybe we can find that we have common interest and work together? That is the most productive part of Washington Mardi Gras that I think a lot of people don't know about. Yes, it is a very good time. We, from Louisiana, we know how to have a good time, but it's also a very productive time. There are meetings on economic development, on energy, on lots of different priorities, both at the federal level and the state level. So it's always a great opportunity to say, here's a time when everyone's all together. We don't have to spend 4 hours driving to Shreveport or down to New Orleans or Lake Charles. Let's get everybody together, see what's on everyone's mind and how we can move our state forward. That's a very exciting part of that and a very productive part of what's also just, a time to kind of relax and introduce the rest of the world to the great culture we have in our state.
Yeah, somewhere between a conference and a retreat, to be sure. Hey, April 1st, Solutions Summit. Can I have the same table in the same place?
Absolutely. At the Hilton in downtown Baton Rouge, we will have our annual policy conference leading up to the legislative session. April 1st, April Fool's Day. That's when we're going to be having our summit, talking about a number of these solutions to move our state forward across number of areas.
Let's go.
Energy, healthcare, regulatory reform, fiscal issues. Please come. Please register. There's information on our website, pelicanpolicy.org.
We'll be checking in with the Pelican Institute regularly up until then as well. In the meanwhile, Erin, I appreciate a couple minutes this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I know I've said it 1,000 times already, and I'm probably going to say it 1,000 more before April 1st. But my legislative preseason, the NFL is preseason. My legislative preseason is Washington Mardi Gras, LABI's annual meeting, and the Pelican Institute's Solution Summit. Between those three, you come out ready. You're about as prepped and ready for that legislative session as you could possibly be. So, looking forward to it. Fired up. By the way, LABI's annual meeting coming up February 19th. We will be broadcasting live from there. I should probably tell LABI that we're doing that. But, yeah, the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry will be posted up hopefully in the same spot as always with the same great roster of content. So we blew right past local news. Let's check our we blew right past national news. Let's check our local news, traffic, weather. When we come back, we'll check in with the R Street Institute next. I need the correct pronunciation for her last name when she calls in. And if she doesn't call in, I believe I wrote her number down on the paper.
Okay. Sounds good. Hooty hoo. Studio. All right, and it's pronounced Malier. All right, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll have you up here in just a few short minutes. Let's see. Given about how long the interview will be?
Out for 50.
We'll be out for 50. And it'll be about we'll have you on about 4 minutes or so. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
What happened here? So does Malier?
Malier, yes.
All right, we got some warmer temperatures going to be sticking with us for quite some time. Here with your full forecast, WBRZ meteorologist Emma Kate Cowan. .738 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Dueling ideologies running through the Trump team. Let's talk a little bit about populism or deregulation. Where is this term headed? I know the conversation is going to involve the recent tariff announcements, but there's so much more to it than that. Joining us right now from the R Street Institute, Caroline Malier. Caroline, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you this morning?
Hey, good, Brian. Thanks so much for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about this. As you know, there's a lot that we can expect over the next 4 years. Probably a lot we're going to see over the next 6 months. So walk us through it. What are we looking at in terms of I hate to put it this way, but the duality of a Trump administration?
Yeah, I think you've got kind of a lot of people broadly, but in kind of sector-wise as well, and banking in different industries, kind of wondering, what are we going to get out of this Trump administration? We've already seen kind of a very different vibe with the second administration than we saw with the first, who really have hit the ground running in a really kind of aggressive way. Mm-hmm. So you have on one hand, you've got kind of the populist sort of leaning ideology. You've got that from Trump himself, who has certainly fashioned himself as a man of the people, but also from Vance with his addition to the ticket. And then you kind of got the Elon side of things, where you've got more deregulation, smaller government, with DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, trying to cut as many things as you can. So you're kind of looking at those two things and saying, well, what exactly does that actually mean for financial regulatory policy? And the way we see it right now is, some of those kind of consumer-oriented policies, things to be specific, like credit card late fee rules, which came down under the Biden administration. We see the Trump administration kind of forging ahead with those sort of rules, though maybe not using federal government agencies to enforce them. And then on the other hand, we see deregulation with some of the higher level proposals that are coming down on big banks. So international banking standards that big banks are supposed to abide by under the Biden administration. We see the Trump administration is probably going to roll some of that stuff back. So you got populism and deregulation, and they're kind of going to come together and work together in this administration is how we see things.
Okay, and the how is where it gets really, really tough right there, because these are two separate policy mindsets. Is it a matter of you use that America First protectionism to set the table for later deregulation so that America can keep their foot on the gas, or how? It is the simplest question
right.
there.
Yeah. So to be specific with it. So the America First, deregulation side of things, we look at that as kind of pro-business policy. So things that are really going to unleash American innovation. Mm-hmm. Trump came out with an executive order the end of last month, unleashing prosperity through deregulation, which specifically cites that for every one new regulation that is implemented, they will wind down 10 existing regulations. Now, obviously, the way D.C. works, that gets tricky with the actual process. Winding down regulations isn't as simple as putting pen to paper, unfortunately. But again, I think the way that we've seen this administration operating so far, they are really, really determined to find a way and make really kind of lasting, impactful change. that can't be wound down by the next Democratic administration that comes in. So I think the deregulation side for business, for small business, medium, big businesses, all across the board, and then some of those protectionist things are going to be more really the kind of consumer-facing policy proposals. So Trump specifically cited that he wanted to cap credit card interest rates. We can make a lot of arguments why that's not such a smart idea. Ultimately, the way we see it, that negatively impacts the consumer in the long term. However, you can look at that proposal as a consumer-oriented policy item that Trump is interested in because it directly financially impacts the consumer. And that's where we see that populist agenda coming into play, are those direct financial impacts on consumers.
We're talking with Caroline Malier from the R Street Institute, talking about just the financial policies that are to come with the Donald Trump administration. How is this going to change the face of America's? Well, I don't want to say one economy, but all of our economies. How does it change the face of what we're good at versus what we concentrate on? That I know that's a big question, but are we looking at a change in what America does well?
No, I don't think so. I think America has always had a unique spirit that is the envy of the world. That's why so many people want to come here. We have the American ideals of hard work and believing that if you work hard and you commit yourself to something, that you can make it really far in life. And I think that has been a big part of Trump's rise, has been that people kind of felt that dream slipping away. So I wouldn't say we're going to see a change. Maybe we would see kind of a reversal back to those ideals that so many Americans grew up with. And again, that's where the populism comes into play. Is Americans have felt like a lot of that dream has kind of been slipping away from them for a while now. And Trump came on the scene and said, I'm here for you. I'm here for the little guy, for the guy who feels he's been left behind by a massive government apparatus that is more focused on the needs of other countries. I think that's more so where we're headed, is back to our traditional ideals.
Okay, you kind of walked me up to right where I wanted to go with this, and that is, how is the president going to balance domestic policy versus a global market?
Yeah, so I imagine that's in line with the tariffs. And again, I mean, he's made it very clear that he's interested in America First policy. He wants to focus on American business, American workers, and he intends to use tariffs as a tool for that. Again, with tariffs, that's a really tricky area, and there's a lot of good research on it. There's a lot of conflicting ideas on it. However, I think that it can be pretty clearly seen from research that tariffs do ultimately come down to impact the consumer financially. I mean, that is just the end result. You see higher prices for goods. However, in my view, a lot of tariffs is a negotiating tactic from Trump, and I think that he uses the fact that people don't really know where he's going to come down on things, which is kind of the essence of this entire conversation, right? You don't really know exactly where he might come down on things. He uses that to his advantage, and that's what he's doing with tariffs. I mean, these, Mexico, China, they don't really know ultimately what he'll do, and he knows that, and he enjoys that benefit.
It flexes it regularly in the first 2 weeks, to be sure. Okay, so how does that affect? We're not, as a populace, we're not really used to that, right? It is bold as a strategy. It is bold to use a tariff as a carrot on a stick. How does that affect confidence in the market? How does it affect confidence in investing? Is there an adaptation period on our end to say, all right, we can get behind this guy because he's using it as an effective tool versus, oh man, we're at a craps table?
Well, that's a very good point. And, I think we saw some wild swings in the market already this week because of that. The market is, it'll ultimately start to, regulate around these kind of policies. I don't think we'll see the wild swings we've seen. We'll get into a groove, I think. And again, I think the big thing that we can really look for in the markets too is the deregulation, especially on energy production. I think when we look at how that is overall going to impact the economy, we're gonna things are gonna end up going quite well in the markets. So, it's hard to say. I'm not a stock trader, but I think that ultimately, just like it was in his first term, the Trump economy is going to be quite well for the American people.
Well, okay, so you actually answered my last question before I asked it, and that is simply, will it work?
I think so. And something I'd like to point out as well is a lot of these kind of consumer-oriented proposals that came out of the Biden administration, they really just leaned into using the heavy hand of federal regulatory agencies. I don't really see Trump going down that route. We saw him last week speaking to Davos. He called out a bank CEO, directly and said something on debanking. I hope you open your bank to conservatives. That's more Trump style. He's going to be right out in front. He's going to say what he thinks in the moment. Certainly we know that about him by this point. And he's going to use kind of more public pressure campaigns, negotiation tactics. He's not going to come down with heavy-handed regulations. And I think, if he wants to advance these policy items that maybe economically really aren't ultimately that great in the end, because they are ultimately still fairly regulatory, that's the better route to do it, is by working with the businesses instead of forcing them through government mandates. So I think even on those agenda items that are a little bit less free market, we're still ultimately going to see benefits to the economy. Mm-hmm. And certainly on the deregulatory side, we'll see big benefits as well.
It's up to all of us to stick our chest out and buy in, though. I mean, at the end of the day, that is the other side of that street. She is Caroline Malier with the R Street Institute. We always appreciate the R Street's insight, and we greatly, greatly appreciate your insight this morning, Caroline. Thanks so much for a couple minutes.
Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. We're coming up on 7:50 at Talk 107.3 FM. Got to remind you, Coach Kim Mulkey and the LSU Tigers hit the road to face Missouri Thursday at 6:30, and then Sunday at 3, they're going to host Tennessee. Here are the Tigers all season long on your home for LSU women's basketball. That's right here on Talk 107.3 FM. And by the way, while we're talking about Kim Mulkey, you can catch the Kim Mulkey Show Tuesday nights at 7. Well, that'll be right here as well. Tuesday nights at 7, Kim Mulkey coming your way. Right now, here's your Money Now on Talk 107.3. Galen says, isn't it odd that a president putting America first is odd? You know, I've been sitting on this take for some time now, and I was that code for them killers? I missed that one. I've been sitting on this take for some time now, and I think I've finally figured out who we are as Americans. We're Cal Naughton Jr. We're Cal Naughton Jr. That's who we are. For too many years, we've run second fiddle behind Ricky Bobby. And now we're finally get to run some races on our own. What?
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
Just nothing. Nothing at all. Oh, man.
I think there's a comparison to be made here. 755 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Hey, don't forget, Talk 107.3 presents a weekly conversation with St. George Mayor Dustin Yates, Monday afternoons at 5 p.m. It's called Mondays with the Mayor. You can watch the show each week on the City of St. George's Facebook page. Mondays with the Mayor with St. George Mayor Dustin Yates, Monday afternoons at 5, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. I'm told we're back on for next week for Mondays with the Mayor. Mayor Yates had a scheduling conflict for this week, so we had to push pause again. It's tough to run down a mayor for a weekly hit. But nonetheless, we do our level best to get that out there as often as is humanly possible. Mondays with the Mayor on St. George's Facebook page and right here on Talk 107.3 FM. A great conversation with Caroline Melier in our last segment from the R Street Institute. Love digging in with the R Street Institute wherever we can. They always provide great insight and information. We're going to get back into the Louisiana Now in just a minute. I did want to reference a comment about the last segment that was in our Facebook chat, which, by the way, of course, Talk 107.3 FM, our Facebook chat every day brought to you by the folks over at Lake Urgent Care, our YouTube channel brought to you by the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. You can check it out there if you want. Galen says in the Facebook chat in regards to the Trump administration, says, isn't it odd that a president putting America first is odd? First of all, great phrasing, Galen. That's awesome. But isn't it odd that a president putting America first is odd? You know who we are as Americans right now? We're Cal Naughton Jr. We are Cal Naughton Jr. right now. For far too long, we've had to ask Ricky Bobby if we could just come out and play. And then Ricky Bobby is on the shelf. And now, we're going to do battle with Jean Girard. But, as Cal Naughton Jr., we can get that Wonder Bread car and get after it. Too much? Bit of a stretch? Yes, no? Somewhere close? Anything?
No.
Are we Cal Naughton Jr.?
Okay, we may be Cal Naughton Jr., but...
Oh, man. Let's take you back down to New Orleans. The Super Bowl, of course, this week. Susan Bourgeois, we had a longer bite from her in the last hour, soundbite from her in the last hour, talking about Louisiana Now, the Louisiana Now Pavilion that they've got set up, showcasing the state's economic strengths, culture, and business potential. What can we expect as selling the state as part of Super Bowl week?
Louisiana has the lowest industrial electricity prices in the country. That makes us incredibly competitive. Louisiana exports 61% of the world's liquefied natural gas today, 61%. That makes us incredibly impactful.
So the Louisiana Now Pavilion will host business executives, athletes, dignitaries, artists from around the world. Susan Bourgeois says Louisiana Now will provide visitors with compelling stories about the economic strength that includes Meta building a $10 billion AI data center up in Richland Parish.
how can you not use the commitment Meta has now made to Louisiana as the exclamation point on the end of that story?
Completely. She said on this show last week, I said, you're going to use Meta to sell to the Super Bowl. She says, I'm going to use Meta to sell every chance I get. Louisiana now. Oh, by the way, this is going to be an interactive thing. It's not just going to be stats on walls.
There's a Louisiana wow wall, and it's just statistics and stories and evidence, if you will, of the innovation and the success that's coming out of Louisiana.
Going on. There's a big kickoff press conference at 11 o'clock today. God, I'm hoping to make it down there for that. All right, we're coming up on 8 o'clock at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. After we take our break for news, traffic, and weather, we will have This Day in History. This Day in History, of course, always presented by 5 Star Printing and Signs. You can check them out online at printshop5.com. Printshop5.com. Danny and his team now moved. They're right off of Range, right next door to Big Mike's, is where you're going to find 5 Star Printing and Signs.
Sonny says, I don't know if it was you or the producer, but someone said hootie hoo. It was me. I said it earlier. Brian kind of let out a woo, and I was like, hootie hoo. What y'all know about that? Huh? What you know about that, Sonny? Let's hear it. Oh, now I get it.
What?
Code for the Killers. Was that the song? That was Master P, right? Oh, man.
Huh?
Hootie Hoo. The
Hootie
song,
Hoo.
Code for the Killers? That's what it was.
Oh.
No, it was true. That's what it was. Yeah. That's that late 90s no limit records, No Limit Soldier.
This problem with my laptop, I feel like it's getting worse.
With the sleeper?
Yeah, it's like I can't do a segment without... Right, and I'm trying to talk to somebody, and then I've got to type my password back in mid-sentence, so what I should be reading off the screen, I'm typing in my damn password. All right, that's some good feedback right there. Two different texts right there. One of them said MAGA, if you're not first, you're last. And the other one said, who the hell is Cal Naughton Jr.?
Thinking when you said it on air that there'd be some Google and people would be like, who the hell is that?
But I said Ricky Bobby.
Right.
Everybody knows who
you
you realize who Cal Naughton Jr. is once I say who Ricky Bobby is.
Right. It's the setup.
Right.
You're setting it up. You're saying, hey. But yeah, there are some, Brian, who have not,
.806 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. State Representative Kim Carver are going to join us in our next segment. Let's talk about education wins and how to keep the foot on the gas on that front. Also this hour, checking in down in New Orleans. Matt Moscona, host of After Further Review, going to join us at 8:35. Give us a little scene setter right there. What's things looking like in and around the convention center? You got more folks moving in every day. Radio Row, bigger than it's ever been. Media Row, actually, is what it is. It's not just a series of radio stations. You got the TV stations. You got the online outlets. You got the traditional radio stations as well. So we'll get a good look at how all that's shaping up, as it's only Tuesday of Super Bowl week. But, man, there's a lot going on already. So we will check in with Matt Moscona at about 8:35. Hey, before we move on, so sometimes I always love the feedback we get with the show. Sometimes I'll make a pop culture reference that gets lost in the weeds. In the last segment, I jokingly said America's like Cal Naughton Jr. So that's from a movie called Talladega Nights. I got 2 text messages right at the top of the hour. One of the text messages said, MAGA, if you're not first, you're last, which apropos on that front. The other text message said, who in the hell is Cal Naughton Jr.? I probably could have described a little bit further that he was from the movie Talladega Nights. I thought when I said Ricky Bobby, it was pretty explanatory, but I shouldn't assume that everyone's seen Talladega Nights. No. If you haven't seen it, it's awesome. It's fun. Fun movie.
There's a better chance you've seen Talladega Nights than Crocodile Dundee 2.
You know what? We don't need to bring that one up anymore. That was a miss on my part. That was a swing and a miss. I whiffed badly. I whiffed so bad I pulled an oblique on that one.
But you just never know.
I know. What? No. That was pretty. That
was an obscure reference.
That
right?
was really, really a deep cut. Did not need to reference Crocodile Dundee 2.
Hey, when it fits though, right? When it
works,
it
totally fit.
How can you pass on it?
It was a 100% fit.
Right.
Like a glove.
Right.
You know what they say when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging.
Yeah.
So let's put the shovel down and do this day in history. All right, John.
Hey.
Anything happen today?
There's a few things. Starting off in 1789, where the first U.S. Electoral College chooses George Washington as president and John Adams as vice president.
Hey, good for them.
Yeah. Let's see. What else happened today? Oh, yeah. 1859, one of the oldest known copies of the Bible was found in Egypt.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big one.
Indeed. 1930. The first tieless, soundless, shockless streetcar tracks are established in New Orleans today.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah. Hey, 1945, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin, they meet to discuss the final phase of World War II today.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. 1972, U.S. Senator Strom Thurmgood suggests Thurmgood.
Strom, not Thurmgood. U.S.
what I
Senator
said.
Strom Thurmond.
Suggests John Lennon be deported. He was deported, all right.
Well, oh, come on.
Hey, look at this music news. 1977, Rumors, the 11th studio album by Fleetwood Mac, is released that year.
All right.
Grammy of the year. A Grammy album of the year, sorry. Let's see, that year. 1987, U.S. President Ronald Reagan's veto for Clean Water Act is overridden by Congress this day.
Okay.
Man. 1991, Alex Trebek becomes the first person to host 3 American game shows at the same time. Jeopardy, Classic Concentration, and Tell the Truth. To Tell the Truth.
Okay.
I didn't know about the other 2. I don't know if I just
couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I've heard of To Tell the Truth.
1997, O.J. Simpson found liable in the deaths of Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson in a civil court action.
Okay.
Hey, 2000 simulation video game The Sims was developed.
Oh, wow.
Did you ever play The Sims?
Yeah, once or twice.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was still like in the dial-up days.
It was.
So,
It was.
yeah.
Hey, speaking of dial-up, 2004.
Yep.
Mark Zuckerberg launches Facebook.
The website Facebook was launched as thefacebook.com.
Facebook.com.
I got on so when I got on Facebook, you did still have to have a .edu email address.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you were kind of the early stage.
Yeah.
I didn't come along till
bhalda1 at lsu.edu was my college email address.
Nice.
And yeah, I was not an early. I was on it early, but did not understand the usage of it early. Like
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm here. What are we doing?
Right.
But like, I don't know. When Facebook first came out, I was like, this will never beat MySpace.
My next question was going to be, were you on social media before Facebook?
Yes.
So you were on MySpace.
Yes.
We all were.
Yes, and I loved having a top 8.
Loved
the top
MySpace.
8.
Man.
Yep. We got birthdays today,
When we peaked
or was
with
that all
society.
in? Was that all in events? That we got birthdays today?
Yes, of course. Starting
Okay.
off with Rosa Parks today.
Hey, all right.
Rosa
1913, Rosa Parks was born.
Yeah, see that. Wow. Musician Alice Cooper today.
Okay.
Let's see. Who else we got? I know comedian Hannibal Buress as well.
Okay.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer
All right.
today. I want to say there was a big one, right?
Yeah,
Why
you
is
had
it
Charles Lindbergh, born on this day in 1902.
Yep.
Dan Quayle, former vice president, born on this day in 1947.
Yep.
I got 2 from the world of sports, but I got to scroll back up to get to them. Give me 1 second.
I was going to say, I don't want to take your sports one.
No,
you have
no,
a
no.
boxer.
Yeah, I got Oscar De La Hoya,
Oscar De La Hoya.
born on this day in 1973, and Lawrence Taylor, born on this day in 1959. Who died?
Yeah. Deaths. Slow day in deaths here. Karen Carpenter from the group The Carpenters.
Okay.
For songs known as "We've Only Just Begun" and things like that.
Yep.
That's pretty much the biggest.
That's the only
I
one
have.
you got?
Yeah. Am I missing?
You're missing one other musician, to be sure.
Who is it?
That's Liberace, baby. Liberace died on this day in 1987. Yep.
What?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yep.
Any more deaths today?
Nope.
Today, National Day is World Cancer Day, an important day to raise awareness about prevention, detection, and treatment of this fatal disease.
Absolutely. And to go along with that, every one of our Medical Mondays in the month of February is going to be based off of cancer awareness, and cancer treatment. So, yeah, let's keep that ball rolling for sure.
Yes, indeed.
It is 8:14. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Quick break. When we come back, State Representative Kim Carver joins us next. Let me give you his number.
bad John Lennon assassination joke falls flat. Imagine that.
Keep it going. Download the free Talk 1073 mobile app. Find what you missed each day at talk1073.com and watch us live on Facebook and the Talk 1073 Baton Rouge YouTube channel, all courtesy of Lake Urgent Care. Lake Urgent Care, walk-in care for minor illnesses and injuries. Last week, National Report Card came out. Louisiana was number 32 overall. Within those categories, there were a number of jumps in reading in 4th grade, reading in 8th grade, math in 4th grade, math in 8th grade. I want to welcome back to the show State Representative Kim Carver, because he had a bit of a hand in this. Well, maybe not for this report card. It might have been a little bit soon to get that turnaround, except for the 4th graders. But what we're seeing from our state legislature is a continued emphasis on education. Representative Carter had the numeracy education as a law that passed in the last session. He joins us now. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Brian. How are you?
I am doing very well as well. We saw the results of the Steve Carter literacy program. We're seeing it in real time. Huge jumps from low 40s to, in some cases, all the way up to the teens. Our overall report card scores at 32 out of 50 right now. But technically 51. DC counts as its own area. But our overall score right now is 32. The hope here is that math scores go up the way reading scores did, and that starts with your assessments. So let's dive in and talk about it.
Absolutely, and really to put it even into more context, Brian, this was sort of a doomsday story for the nation. You read it, you saw it on national news. A lot of organizations were painting this picture that 4th and 8th grade performance and proficiency in both math and reading were down all across the nation, with the exception of 2 states that were outliers. And Louisiana happened to be one of those outliers. It's a great story for Louisiana, not a great story necessarily for the nation, but it's fantastic to finally be the outlier for good and for Louisiana's narrative to be changing nationally when it comes to education outcomes.
What has gone into making us that outlier? Obviously, we'll talk about the numeracy end of this, the math end of this in a minute. But overall, how did we get to where we are, to where we're moving up?
Yeah, I will tell you, I believe 1,000% that it is this relentless, laser-like focus on literacy and reading, and then math and numeracy, right? And just sort of discount everything else, focus on those 2 things, teach our kids to read and to do math, those basic, foundational, fundamental skills, and everything else falls into place. And you mentioned it, the legislature in previous sessions, the leadership of the Department of Education with Dr. Cade Brumley. And, you have an administration and a legislature now that's sort of doubling down and making more significant strides and investments and focusing on those things. It kind of reminds me of our childhood, Brian, when we didn't want to eat our vegetables, but our parents knew it was good for us, right? Eat your carrots, eat your green beans, eat your broccoli. And we're saying that to our teachers and to our administrators. Teach our kids reading and math, reading and math, reading and math. And we're seeing the results from it.
We got State Representative Kim Carver on with us, and yeah, getting back to basics is very, very important. And letting teachers teach is also an important part of this as well. And this is something that Superintendent Brumley has made a big point throughout the way. How much of working with Superintendent Brumley is, because I mean, if it starts in the legislature, the next stop is the superintendent, the next stop is the teachers, and the final stop is the buy-in from the parents. So breaking this down step by step, how much of this is Dr. Brumley's leadership?
Well, look, we all play a role in this, and you described it very, very well, and that's why I've been careful to heap praise onto our teachers, onto our administrators, and onto our parents. And look, it's our kids, it's our students. I have 3 teenage daughters at home that all go to a public school and take these tests and sweat over it and have angst and anxiety, but take it very seriously. Kudos and bravo to them as well.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that one person can take the claim, or the credit for it, but it's this effort where we all agree that this is important and this is going to be our priority that helps us make these achievements.
We got State Representative Kim Carver on with us from the Mandeville area, where traditionally St. Tammany Parish schools have always been top notch as well. I can say that because I grew up there. But Representative Carter, numeracy initiatives. Let's talk about what we've seen with the literacy into this. What's your timeline, or what's your expected timeline of where we're going to see the numbers jump on the numeracy side, on the math side, the way we've seen it on the reading side?
Well, the numeracy screener that we put in place kind of catches our earliest learners, kindergarten through third. It gives them a spot check a few times a year. And so immediately when we begin to recognize deficiencies or struggles in foundational numeracy from kindergarten to third graders, we start wrapping them up in those interventions. So you've talked about it on your show before, but the legislature passed a $30 million appropriation in the last session for high-dosage tutoring, and that's to put some of those resources in the classroom. You just mentioned the Steve Carter program, which gives families that have kids that aren't performing on level. Used to be in only reading. Now reading and math can take those dollars for outside of school time to get interventions and help. So we're wrapping interventions and assistance and programmatic supports around our students immediately as we identify it, beginning this year with kindergarten through third graders. So I think, the kids that are in second grade right now and that are in third grade are getting the help that they need. They're going to be able to perform better. The NAEP national report card comes out every 2 years. So in 2 years, I hope we see even more improvement in math. But look, we're leading the nation right now in growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's in. I don't know. I don't know if we can keep the pace on the growth end, because you're going to see diminishing returns. The closer you get to the top, the fewer spots you move up every time out. The closer you are to the bottom, the more room you have to move up. So taking advantage of that with this report card is 100% necessary. Moving up the overall ranking, I think, is the next big step right there. State Representative Kim Carver with us. I want to ask you about, 2 years from now, another report card is going to come out, which means we have more work to be done. Legislatively, what's the next steps for y'all?
Well, look, there's continued work involved. We were, at the press conference this week with our educational policymakers, members of the legislature, Cade and his team, folks from Bessie, and there are going to be a number of bills filed in the coming session. House Education is actually going to be meeting in the month of February, so the legislature is continuing to do its work, and I'm going to be filing another bill in this session that has to do with math. We're not going to let up. Now's not the time to pull up, off of the gas pedal. Now's the time to kind of double down where we've seen progress and where we've seen movement, to make sure that we put students on a path to prosperity and opportunity here.
How do we work the balance? This is more of a Cade Brumley question than a Kim Carver question, but how do we work the balance of creating a focus on reading and math without losing focus on the other topics, specifically for, once you're past fourth grade, opening things back up a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, those foundational, skills in those two subjects are so core. When you think about science, for example, when you get to high school, I'm helping tutor my daughter, who my oldest is a freshman, in chemistry right now. And chemistry is a lot of math. Physical science has a lot of math as its base. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a strong math foundation, chemistry, physics, a lot of those sciences come a lot easier. And it's the same thing with reading and literacy, Brian, and you know this. You know, when you're a capable reader, you can read for comprehension. You can do history. You know, you can do English and literature because that ELA, the foundation of it is reading. And so when we put kids on that solid foundation, then they can, as they grow, you know, be able to expand to these other subjects which have reading and math in their base.
So the pivot then becomes, it's not that we're reading, it's what we're reading.
Exactly.
Hey, we got a couple minutes left, Representative Carter. I want to ask you what else is on topic for the upcoming session. I know it's a fiscal session that's going to, you know, kind of focus everything, a lot of tax-based bills. But what else is going to be of interest in this upcoming session that won't be fiscally related?
Well, I think you're going to continue to see the legislature lean in heavily on insurance, right? We're still in an insurance crisis, both in property and auto. We pay some of the highest rates in the nation. It's really breaking the back of our citizens, and it's affecting commerce and our economy. So the committees that are responsible for insurance issues in both the House and the Senate have continued to meet, Brian, all through the summer and through the fall after the session ended in June, to continue to do their work. And I think we have more of that coming in February and March before we go in April. I think you're going to see a substantial package of bills that will help further address the property insurance crisis, but really begin to focus on auto insurance as well.
Are we ever going to can we get insurance done without a special session, or is it going to take eventually us just chipping in and saying we got to give this its own thing?
Well, I believe we can. In the last regular session, the legislature passed over 35 insurance bills. So while we didn't have a special session, we addressed a lot of the concerns in the marketplace on property insurance. Mm-hmm. And I think we will be able to do that as well. The leadership has sort of the House and Senate has signaled that because the committees have done this work, are going to have this package of bills, we're going to try to run them and advance them early on in the regular session. And so, you know, we'll see how successful we can be on those and whether or not a special session would be needed. But we passed a huge volume of insurance bills in the last session, and I think you're going to see a substantial package of bills make it through the process in this one.
He is State Representative Kim Carver. We always appreciate the time, sir. Thank you so much for hopping on board.
It's great to be with you. This is great news for our state.
Oh, no. Yes, it absolutely is. 30-second. Look, we got to note the differentiation there. We're happy with the number. We're not satisfied with the number. So y'all keep working.
Right, we've got more work to do, but let's celebrate the highest ranking we've ever had and then keep continuing the work.
100%. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Brian.
Always. 8:29 coming up on 8:30 at Talk 107.3 FM. Got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's, your Carnival headquarters. Need a king cake? Boy, they got you covered. The Nicholson Drive, the Nicholson Drive location specifically, Mathern's has got the big king cake display out there. I haven't seen it. I haven't been to the downtown one lately, so I don't want to speak on their behalf. I'm sure they've got the king cakes there as well. But the Nicholson Drive location, you need a king cake, Bavarian cream, cream cheese, strawberry, praline, whatever the filling you want, they've got you covered on that front. If you want the traditional, they've got you there too. If you want the really fancy ones like the wedding cake or the Cookie Monster, they've got those. Now, let's move past bringing the king cake to the office over to your Mardi Gras ball. If you are, like, let's say, Aduna, Crew of Aduna's coming up on Saturday night. You got Orion down the line. If you are attending a ball and need to bring some food, catering trays are available at Matherns.com, and they make it so easy. Just hop on Matherns.com. They've got more than 50 trays to choose from. And then when it's time for the parades, when you hit the route, Matherns downtown is right on the route, nestled between 3rd and 4th right there by Maine. It's Matherns. Oh, Nelly. Huh? Love it. Do you have Moscona's number? All right, I'll get you that in a second. All right, y'all. Let's get this thing over the finish line. Mm-hmm. All right, time to check the forecast here. We do have a 30% chance of rain in the forecast for today. Your high is supposed to get up to about 80. Overnight low tonight, only 63. Tomorrow we'll top out at 81 and get down to 67. Look for some fog tomorrow morning as well. Same thing for Thursday morning. Thursday's got a high of 82 and a low of 64. Friday will top out at 82. Saturday will top out at 85. Now Sunday, another 40% chance of rain and a high of 77. Monday's high, 66. Tuesday's high 65, Wednesday's high 64. So as we look towards next week when we get into the middle of February, might have some decent temperature drops. Get back to a little more wintertime feel out there. Right now we're cloudy and 68 in downtown Baton Rouge. It's 838 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Got your lunch plan set yet? Need to tell you about the folks over at P.F. Chang's. You know where to find P.F. Chang's. They're off Corporate Boulevard in Town Center. You know why you're looking for P.F. Chang's? You're going to get fantastic Chinese food. I don't mean like Chinese takeout where it's all greasy and heavy. You get better ingredients. You get fresher ingredients. You get great service. You get an upscale environment. P.F. Chang's does it right, y'all. And if you're not looking for them for lunch, might I suggest P.F. Chang's for dinner? I took the whole family out a couple weeks ago. We went by P.F. Chang's. We did the whole thing. Christy and I splurged, got a couple drinks, did a couple of appetizers. Kids order whatever you want, and then we capped it off with the Great Wall of Chocolate for dessert. Man, it's the environment is family-friendly for dinner. The environment is business-friendly for lunch. They're going to get you in, get you out. It's P.F. Chang's in Town Center. Look for the giant golden horse. All right, headed down to the Big Easy right now, although traffic's nothing but anything but easy at this time of with the Super Bowl in town. We got Matt Moscona, host of AFR, on with us. Matt, how are you, brother?
Hi, Brian. Doing great.
So the environment down there, you did your show from there yesterday. Going to be doing all the shows on 104.5. Going to be broadcasting from air quote Radio Row all week long. Walk us through what the environment looks like. What does Radio or Media Row look like for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, they call it Media Row because it's way more than just radio, man. It is all media and a lot of new media. So, for example, where we're set up, directly behind us is the ESPN radio, the national broadcast. They have a large set, and then right next to them is Pat McAfee's show. So you're talking about basically everybody who is in any form of media that's there. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. There was an international presence. We heard German broadcasters yesterday, Spanish language broadcasters as well. So we all know this about the Super Bowl, right? But the eyes of the world descend upon this one event for the week. Kind of, as I understand it, though, Brain, this is our first time doing Media Row for the Super Bowl. Wednesday is really the day where it starts to ramp up toward the weekend. So Monday and Tuesday are a little bit of a slow build, the simmer, and before the fire starts raging later in the week.
All right, so what does it look like? Is a lot of it empty right now, or is it just the build out without the talent? What are we looking at?
Sure. So if you're familiar with the Morial Convention Center, Media Row operates two of the exhibition halls. So it's probably 300 yards long. I mean, it is a vast space that they're using. It's still pretty full, but it's effectively all squared together with rows of hundreds of tables, and then around the perimeter are all the sets for the national broadcast, the McAfee's, the ESPN Radio, Sirius XM, NFL Media, et cetera. The other thing that's kind of cool is, like at any sort of conference, you also have host committees for different events with their sort of section as well. So, for example, the NFL draft this year is in Green Bay, so there's a mini facade of Lambeau Field built out where they're giving away brats and things like that, trying to encourage media to go cover the draft in Green Bay. Next year, the draft's in Pittsburgh, so there's a whole Visit Pittsburgh booth. Next year, the Super Bowl is in Santa Clara, so there's a whole Bay Area committee, build out for the host committee for next year, trying to encourage people to go to Santa Clara. So there's a lot of that stuff as well.
We're talking with Matt Moscona, host of After Further Review on our sister station 104.5 ESPN, broadcasting live from Media Row down at the Super Bowl. Now, along with Media Row, you've got all the events that go on as well. Matt, the way I've been describing all the events surrounding Super Bowl week is kind of like Jazz Fest. You're not going to see all the acts. You got to pick what you're going to and go. So from 104.5's perspective, how are y'all triaging that?
Yeah, so not only just like the media availability, Brain, but I was told by one of the host committee members yesterday that there's I think he told me the number was 465 parties in the city just this week surrounding Super Bowl stuff. So I mean, just think of all the different, companies that are hosting parties, events, venues. I mean, it is an insane number of things going on. Yeah. So if you can't find something to do, that's on you. As far as the media availability as well, so Monday night in the Dome was what they used to call it Media Day. Now they call it opening night. They do invite fans to come to the Dome and sit in the stands while all the credentialed media can ask questions for an hour of each team. Mm-hmm. And we did have a presence there last night. And then each day there's different media availability with coaches and players. So today around 10:30 or 11 at the team hotels are media availability in smaller segments with players and coaches. There's so much of a circus around the Super Bowl. Sometimes we forget, like, they are there to play a game. So you do have a lot of media there from the respective teams that are there to cover the different storylines associated with the players and coaches in their teams, respectively.
Well, and it's a good point because you can get lost in that. There's so many events that go on, and there's so much hype and pomp and circumstance that, yeah, there will be football played at the end of the week. You mentioned the media availability. I think it's interesting the way they map this out because the Chiefs are over at the Marriott on Canal, and then the Eagles are at the Hilton, and you have like 40 minutes in between the two media availabilities to hustle from one to the other.
And they do here's one of the things that's awesome about New Orleans. And I think being here, we all know this, but the reason that people love the Super Bowl being in New Orleans is everything is walkable and accessible and in close proximity. Like, for example, I just mentioned Santa Clara next year. Well, Santa Clara is 45 minutes outside of San Francisco. There's nothing convenient about that. Even like if you've been to Houston where NRG is, NRG Park is south of downtown, and there's no hotels around NRG. It's a vast space there, and there's a lot there, but nothing's close. So the proximity of everything, like, for example, all the media hub around the convention center, there are shuttle buses sitting outside that run every so often whenever there is an event coming, like, for example, this morning, the media availability at the hotels. So there are shuttle buses running constantly to get people to and from hotels, so that way there isn't that you're not missing events like that. So it's old hat for New Orleans. I mean, they've done this so many times now, not just with the Super Bowl, but with other main events. They know how to make this thing work efficiently.
Just from a general perspective, what's the city looking like? Is it visible how much work they got done when it comes to prep?
Not only prep as far as cleaning the city, but the other thing that's very noticeable is the security presence, especially after the January 1st attack. There is a makeshift fence, a tall fence that's been put around the perimeter of the Memorial Convention Center. Everyone that enters has to go through metal detectors. There are bomb-sniffing dogs at every entrance as well. So New Orleans' finest, et cetera, they are all very much on heightened alert to make sure this is as safe a week for the city as possible. Like, it's weird to say it this way, I can't imagine being in a safer place this week than New Orleans because of the increased heightened awareness and increased level of security and protection for every possible scenario. So, but the city looks great. I think a lot of that, I don't know if you were down for the Taylor Swift show this fall, but they had already begun a lot of the cleanup of the city. I know something that people mention a lot is, the tent villages under the interstate there near the Dome, like that's all been cleared out. As I understand it, they found temporary housing for the homeless, and they've just cleaned a lot of that area. There was a lot of work done on Poydras as well, adding coverages, like temporary coverages to parts of Poydras. So it's beautiful. I mean, they've done a great job, getting the city ready to host an event like this, and you'd love to be able to see it carry forward long after the Super Bowl is done.
Well, and that's the plan with Mardi Gras and then Essence Fest, Jazz Fest and Essence Fest. The New Orleans calendar is just mapped out. When you add the Super Bowl into it, it makes for an even bigger deal. And no, I was not down there for Taylor Swift. And yes, thank God my daughters are already in school right now, or else you'd have just scratched off that wound. We're talking we've got a couple minutes left with Matt Moscona. What's traffic like with the road closures and everything? I know the CBD is jammed on a regular day. How much of a nightmare is it? And once more people get there, is it just going to be gridlock?
Yeah, not bad yet. I mean, it's almost business as usual in the CBD because you got to keep in mind most of the people that are coming to the city are not commuting. So like the media that's coming in, they fly in, they'll Uber, they're staying in that area. So again, the transportation is largely done by these shuttle buses that are running the media all throughout. And there isn't really, not that I've noticed anyway, a very strong fan presence yet. Again, that's probably going to start to ramp up later in the week. So, I mean, driving in, and I'm commuting each day, Brain. So like I'm doing my show and then driving back to Baton Rouge, and I'll go back in the mornings. But you're driving in yesterday. It was a pretty standard morning around 10 in the morning to be driving through the CBD. So nothing too bad so far.
He is Matt Moscona, host of AFR. Do we know who's on the show today? Because I know that's a fluid scenario when you've got Media Row.
Yeah, I believe we'll have Brian Urlacher already booked for today, which is pretty cool. They got a really cool event. Urlacher and Ron Jaworski with about 100 former NFL players and Hall of Famers and all. It's a fundraiser for Ron Jaworski's charity that's coming up on Thursday in New Orleans. So we're excited to talk to Urlacher. We have other stuff, plenty of stuff booked throughout the week, but my goodness, everything from former stars like Brian Urlacher, we'll have DeMario Davis and Brian Brzee of the Saints, and then even people in entertainment like Lauren Daigle, who's going to be performing. I believe, I can't remember if it's America's Beautiful, God Bless America. She's singing before the game. We'll have Lauren Daigle on with us one day this week. So it's a pretty cool thing to be a part of because everybody in media and entertainment is all going to be in this one place in the world, and we're going to be in the middle of it, which is pretty cool.
So jealous. You're going to get your pick of dozens of Hall of Famers. You get to pick their brain for 12 minutes and then spend 2 talking about whatever it is that reputable cause they're out there for. It produces unbelievable content. He is Matt Moscona, host of AFR. Get after it, brother. Have fun down there.
All right, thanks, Brand. You're fired.
That was coming. All right, for those that don't know, I used to be Moscona's producer. He would fire me on a daily basis, and it was never not funny. Like, never, ever not funny. Always appreciate his time. So jealous. I don't even like Brian Urlacher or Ron Jaworski per se, but you just think of that level of access to Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. You spend 10 minutes talking about, like, just great football stories, and then, what are you here for today? All right, we got a break. Here's your money now. Sonny, I'd go down on Saturday. Oh, Emily Shinovere's in. She says she was in the city over the weekend for Daughter's Dance Convention, and it looked amazing. Look, it's amazing what attention will do. It is amazing what attention can do. State legislature pays attention to education. We move up from 49th to 32nd. Jeff Landry puts in Troop Nolan and says, damn it, we're going to give New Orleans some tough love because it's got potential. And look, yeah, we had the Super Bowl as kind of the jumping off point. But look where that's at right now. The state Republican Party says Baton Rouge deserves a Republican mayor. Look what happened for the first time in 20-plus years. Nurturing. Nurturing needs to be the buzzword of 2025. Damn it, now I want to flush the outside in and go off on a friggin' tangent. I'm not the rant guy. I'm the good cop. I haven't even opened up WBRZ at all, like not since 5 o'clock this morning. Oh, wow, look at that guy. Mm-hmm. 21-year-old man accused of forcing his way into his father's home and shooting him in the foot was arrested Monday, according to Sheriff's Office records. His father wrestled the gun away and was holding it when deputies arrived. Yeah, no shit. With these scrawny arms, you wasn't holding on to that gun, Podno. Well, your first shot better be your best shot, because you ain't getting a number two. Well, some people skip leg day.
Little dude?
Bro, he's built like a pretzel. And not even one of those good pretzels. I mean like a golden flake pretzel.
Oh, man.
Your boy got pretzel stick arms. Like a goiter coming out of his head. Sonny says, P.F. Chang's mistyped my name in their system about 15 years ago. I won't correct it to this day when I call in at the go order and give my number. It's George Leathers. instead of Sonny Weathers. George. Cut right? It's so good. Coming up on 8:57 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We got a lot to squeeze in here in this last segment. We're going to need to get to the outside end. We might not. I don't know. Before we go anywhere else, I got to remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank. So happy to welcome them into the glorified crew here over at Mornings with Brian Haldane. Landmark Bank, you're going to find them around Baton Rouge, but not necessarily in Baton Rouge, and that's by design. So if you are in Clinton, you got a branch there. If you're in Greensburg, there's an office there. Zachary's got you covered with two. Denham Springs, and now Brewley as well. They're open in Brewley right now as well. Landmark Bank does things a little bit differently. Now, you're not going to miss out on any of the technology or conveniences that a bank would normally offer. But what you're going to maintain is that face-to-face relationship. What you're going to maintain with Landmark Bank is knowing your banker And I'm all about relationships, y'all. I love being able to shake hands with the person I'm doing business with, not necessarily doing everything via, auto draft or doing everything on online. I like having a person I can talk to, a banker, if you will. And that's what you're going to get at Landmark Bank. Check them out online at landmarkbankla.com. Landmarkbankla.com. Before we get to the outside in, and I know I'm cut it short here, Emily Chenevere, State Representative Emily Chenevere, was in the chat this morning, presented by Lake Urgent Care. She says, talk about the segment we just did with Matt, talking about New Orleans right now. Emily says, I was in the city this past weekend, and it looks amazing. So impressed. You know what's amazing is what a little nurturing can get you. When we pay attention to New Orleans, which traditionally has been one of our, it's a great city. It's a great worldwide city, not just a great American city. When you've got the port, when you've got the charm, when you've got the multicultural background that is what is NOLA, when you've got all that and you leave it neglected, you get what New Orleans has become. When you start to pay attention, you get what New Orleans looks like this week. It's amazing what a little nurturing can do. Kind of been a theme of the show when we talk about education. Our state leaders have been paying attention to education. We talked with Kim Carver earlier this hour. Well, look what nurturing's gotten us. Moving up to our highest ranking ever on the National Report Card. Nurture needs to be the buzzword of 2025. All right, let's hit the outside in. Boy, I did not nurture this segment. I got 40 seconds here. Starting off in Livingston Parish, a 17-year-old boy has been arrested in the fatal shooting of his stepfather from Saturday night. Deputies were called to a small trailer park on Courtney Road around 10 p.m. Saturday. Investigators said 27-year-old Christopher Voth was shot multiple times after a fight with his stepson, Ray Habas Reitinger. Voth died at the hospital a short time later. Heading down to New Orleans, the upcoming Super Bowl already starting to show some of the affected headaches due to traffic. We talked with Matt Moscona about that. He said by Friday, it's going to be absolute chaos. You know what? We're done. I don't have time for that last story. Moon Griffon's next. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. I'm hauling down ass. I'm hauling ass down to New Orleans, hoping to get there for that economic development event. So we'll see you tomorrow.